Okay, let's unpack this. If you are listening to this, you have probably experienced one of the great sort of quiet heartbreaks of adult life, the adult friendship drift. You watch a cherished friend group dynamic change, or maybe you feel that unexplained pang of exclusion when you see a photo pop up somewhere, and you immediately think, it's about you.
Oh, absolutely. You personalize it instantly. What did I do wrong? Do they not like me anymore?
Right, that insecurity hits hard.
It's almost universal, that feeling. But the source material we're looking at today offers a really different perspective, a kind of radical shift, actually.
How so?
Well, it argues that these shifts, these drifts, they're often not personal at all. Not about, character flaws or falling out of favor. They're frequently structural.
Structural,
Meaning,
like logistics.
exactly, based purely on the inevitable logistics of just, well, grown-up life. Things change. Schedules, locations.
Okay, that's really interesting. So our mission in this deep dive then is to synthesize these core concepts driving that change. We're going to unpack what the source calls the three foundational pillars of adult friendships. That's proximity, timing, and energy.
PTE.
PTE. And we'll explain why flexibility seems to be the ultimate key, to either maintaining these bonds or sometimes letting them go with a sense of peace.
And we're going to use this really vivid personal story and anecdote from the source that shows this shift happening in real time.
Right. And then we'll distill some actionable advice from it using this framework called the let them theory. Have you heard of this?
I have, yeah. It's powerful because it gives you a way to interpret that distance, that drift, without immediately jumping to blaming yourself or getting bitter.
Which is so easy to do.
It really is. It helps you figure out, okay, is this bond actually broken or is just paused?
Yeah.
A logistical pause dictated by life stuff.
Okay, great. So let's set the stage. Let's dive into that catalyst anecdote. The narrator describes this period. She calls it one of the most fun times in her life. She was a young mom, 3 kids, living out in the suburbs, and she'd basically struck gold this huge, really close-knit community of other couples, all with kids the same age.
Yeah, and it sounds like it wasn't just, getting together occasionally. The environment itself was built around constant social interaction, like structurally.
Totally. Think high school level social life, but for adults with kids.
Yeah.
Their schedules overlapped constantly. Soccer games, impromptu brunches, backyard barbecues, kids going to the same school.
Trick-or-treating, the whole 9 yards.
Exactly. That kind of enforced, repeated interaction day in, day out. That's what builds those really deep, almost effortless bonds, right?
Absolutely. She felt this incredible joy, connection, especially with 2 couples they were super close to. Like weekends away together, hosting holidays, always talking. Peak community life.
Okay, so the scene is set, happy, integrated, lots of connection.
Picture perfect, almost.
Now, here's where the story takes a sharp turn. And it's driven by this, ironic act of goodwill.
Oh.
The narrator and her spouse, they were so happy in this setup, they actually encouraged another close friend, a couple living far away in Atlanta, to move to their town to join the fun.
Bring more friends into the fold. Makes sense.
Totally. The intention was pure, right? Expand the circle, make a great thing even better. And the Atlanta couple, they really went for it. They bought a house. Get this. Right across the street from those 2 core couples, the narrator already felt like family with.
Wow. Okay, so 3 families, now basically neighbors.
Exactly. The narrator lived maybe a 5-minute drive away. Not far, right, but not across the street. And she expected this immediate, seamless blend, like one big block party, all 4 families just constantly interwoven.
That was the dream scenario.
Yeah. And at first it kind of worked. They made the effort, drove over for those impromptu dinners, things like that. But the shift started happening pretty quickly, actually. And it was clear. The narrator's family started getting fewer invitations, fewer casual hangouts.
Uh-oh.
And then came that really harsh realization. The 3 families across the street, the 2 original couples, plus the new Atlanta couple they were hanging out. A lot.
Yeah,
without the narrator's family. Like, all the time.
Ouch. That stings.
Right. And this is where we see that first pillar, proximity, just flex its muscle, silently but brutally.
Is pure logistics taking over.
Exactly. She realized later, looking back, it wasn't malice. It wasn't that they suddenly disliked her. It was just proximity matters, maybe more than history sometimes.
It really does. Think about the sheer convenience. Those 3 families across the street, they can literally wave from their front doors.
Totally.
Their kids probably took the same school bus, right?
Yep.
So the parents are standing there together waiting twice a day. Spontaneous chats happen.
Carpooling to sports every single day.
Every day, that creates dozens of these tiny micro opportunities for connection
Yeah.
that just happen without any effort.
And that spontaneity, that's the engine, isn't it, of effortless adult friendship. You're standing there waiting for the bus. Someone says, hey, throwing burgers on the grill tonight. Want to come over?
Zero planning required.
Zero. It's easy. It's right there. So, as the source says, it makes total sense that those three families would form this incredibly tight unit.
Yeah, convenience becomes king in adult social life. That 5-minute drive, which sounds like nothing,
Right. Trivial.
suddenly makes interacting with the narrator's family an intentional act. It requires scheduling, coordination, effort.
While the other three families, they were the default setting.
And the narrator's family became the exception, something you had to consciously plan for.
And the pain initially came from misinterpreting that. She talks about feeling replaced, watching this new couple ultimately and unapologetically take what she thought was our place.
That's the natural emotional reaction, isn't it? Feeling pushed out.
Totally. But the critical lesson here, the structural one that kind of sets up this whole framework, is that the shift wasn't personal at all. It was just the physical layout, the architecture of their social world had changed.
Our brains are wired to jump to emotional conclusions when we feel excluded. They hate me. They betrayed me. I'm boring.
Guilty as charged.
We all do it. But this anecdote forces us to hit pause on that emotional reaction and just look at the cold, hard facts. And the facts were 3 families lived across the street, routines overlapped constantly, geographic gravity, essentially.
Realizing that, I mean, it might still hurt initially, but it's also incredibly liberating in a way, isn't it? It's not about you.
Exactly. It frees you from that spiral of self-blame.
But okay, that liberation doesn't always happen overnight, even if you understand the logistics intellectually.
The feelings are still there.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
The emotional spiral the narrator went through was pretty profound. She was in her late 30s, early 40s at this point, and facing this perceived threat, this exclusion, she admits she just became consumed with jealousy and anger.
That internal story starts playing. That used to be us. They stole our friends.
Totally.
And that narrative, that hostile way of framing it, it's like a self-fulfilling prophecy, isn't it? Because it immediately poisons the third pillar. Energy.
Energy.
And energy, unlike proximity or timing, which are often outside our control, energy is something we can consciously manage.
But she wasn't managing it well at the time. She describes this devastating internal struggle. Like she wanted to seem fun, friendly, and carefree to try and win her spot back.
Put on a brave face.
Yeah, but inside, the bitterness was just eating her up. So whenever she actually interacted with them or even just thought about them, she felt like her words, as if a demon took over my mind, body, and spirit. Just cold and bitter.
Wow. That's intense. And that kind of negative energy, it's like social repellent, isn't it? People feel it.
Oh, definitely. The source is really honest here. It says everyone could feel this toxic vibe. She admits she became a walking friendship red flag. Her mood, her behavior, it was palpable. Her husband felt it. The whole community felt it.
It creates this barrier.
Huge barrier. And it wasn't just abstract. She gives this really specific, relatable example that just crystallizes the emotional toll.
What was that?
Sitting at home, eating spaghetti by herself,
Okay.
while knowing or imagining her friends were all together across the street, grilling out in the backyard, and just picturing that comparison, her lonely spaghetti versus their fun barbecue. She said, it just burned me up inside.
Oof. Yeah. That juxtaposition is brutal. Your mundane reality against their perceived perfect social connection just fuels the anger and the resentment.
Totally. But that kind of intense internal drama, it eventually demands some external accountability, right?
Yeah.
You have to face it.
And her most powerful realization, the source says, came looking back, when she finally understood why she wasn't getting invited anymore.
What was the realization?
She basically said, I wouldn't want me at a barbecue either. I wouldn't want my negative energy there.
Wow, that takes a lot of self-awareness.
Huge maturity. Taking responsibility for her own behavior, the pouting, the passive-aggressive cold shoulder, just the general toxic attitude she was putting out there.
So she realized her energy created a barrier that no amount of shared history or even trying to force proximity could overcome.
Exactly. Her lack of maturity, her defensive reactions, that was the wall. And it leads us right to identifying these core mistakes many of us make in adult friendships, especially if we don't have a framework like this.
Okay, what are the mistakes?
The 2 biggest ones, according to the source, before adopting something like the let them theory, are One, expecting friendships to last forever exactly as they are, and assuming inclusion is like a guaranteed right.
The forever expectation, that's a big one.
Huge. And two, expecting adult friendship to always be easy and effortless indefinitely.
Yeah, because it was often easy back in school or college, right?
Precisely. High school, college, proximity and timing are basically forced on you. Shared dorms, same classes, same schedule. The structure does the work.
You don't even have to try that hard sometimes.
Right. But then adult life hits. Those structures dissolve different jobs, different cities, kids, mortgages, and if we still carry that expectation of effortless ease, well, disappointment is pretty much guaranteed.
We set ourselves up for it.
We do. So these first parts of the anecdote really lay the groundwork. Proximity, often structural, beyond our control, dictates where and how often we connect easily. But energy,
Energy is totally within our control.
totally. And if that energy turns negative, toxic, resentful, it can become a wrecking ball. It can destroy the connection, no matter how close you used to be or how close you live.
Okay, so that raw, really emotional story gives us the perfect context to kind of step back now and look at the objective framework the source presents.
Yeah, let's formalize it.
This structural reality that governs our adult social lives. The three pillars of friendship: proximity, timing, and energy. PTE.
PTE. And the core idea is that when any one of these pillars shifts significantly out of alignment, maintaining that friendship just requires way more effort, exponentially more sometimes.
Got it. So let's dig into each one a bit more. Proximity. We've seen how powerful it is. Physical distance, routine overlap.
Right. And that difference between a 5-minute drive and literally being across the street, it sounds small, but sociologically it's massive.
Like you said, spontaneous plan across the street, 10 seconds. Hey, come over. A scheduled drive, even just 5 minutes.
Yeah.
That involves checking schedules, getting in the car, maybe 30 minutes of actual planning and execution time.
Exactly. And we often forget about the types of proximity too, like digital proximity texting, social media. It feels like connection.
And it keeps awareness alive for sure.
It does, but it's a really poor substitute for the bonding that happens with shared physical space and time. Sitting shoulder to shoulder, waiting for the kids, grabbing that spontaneous coffee. Digital chat rarely achieves that same depth.
So when physical proximity ends, the effort needed doesn't just double. It can feel like it squares or worse.
Absolutely.
Well,
Okay, so pillar 2, timing. This one's about the alignment or misalignment of life chapters, and it can be super subtle.
life chapters, like big milestones.
Big milestones, yeah, but also just different phases of intensity. Adulthood isn't linear, right? It's full of these radical shifts in focus and priority.
Okay, give me an example.
Well, one person might be deep in the trenches with a newborn, or maybe caring for an aging parent who needs constant attention, just totally consumed.
All their energy is focused there.
Right. Meanwhile, their close friend might have just become an empty nester, kids are gone, suddenly they have all this free time and maybe more disposable income.
Okay, I see. The capacity just doesn't match up anymore.
Exactly. The person in that really demanding chapter. They might want to connect, but they simply don't have the emotional or logistical bandwidth. Their energy, even if positive, is 100% directed elsewhere out of necessity.
The source talks about people scattering, growing into who they are meant to become. Timing reflects that divergence.
And we need to ask, is this timing misalignment temporary? Like maybe someone's doing a 3-year medical residency, super intense, but it has an end date.
Right. Or is it more permanent?
Yeah, like maybe there are irreconcilable shifts in core values or life paths. One friend takes a high-flying international job requiring constant travel. The other becomes deeply rooted in local community activism. Their timings just aren't compatible for frequent connection anymore.
Okay, that makes sense. So proximity is about space, timing is about life phase, which leaves energy.
Pillar 3. And we saw the negative side clearly in the anecdote: bitterness, jealousy acting as a repellent.
Right. Toxic energy kills connection.
Definitely. But energy is also about bandwidth, just sheer capacity. Even if you're the most positive, loving person on earth, if your personal energy reserves are depleted maybe from a super demanding job like that hyper-growth phase the narrator mentioned later, or struggling with chronic illness, or even just introversion needing recharge time, you simply don't have the capacity to sustain lots of high-input relationships.
So it's not just about being nice, it's about having the actual fuel in the tank to show up for people consistently.
Precisely.
Yeah.
And this touches on that sociological idea, Dunbar's number, things like that.
Yeah.
That humans have a finite capacity for deep, reciprocal connections. We only have so much social bandwidth.
Right. You can't be deeply invested in 50 people.
Exactly. So if your bandwidth is, say, 3 truly deep friendships right now, given everything else on your plate, and a new person comes along who aligns perfectly on proximity, lives next door, and timing, same life stage.
Hmm.
The energy required to build and maintain that new connection is relatively low compared to maintaining an old connection that now requires significant effort due to distance or different timing.
So inevitably, that easier, lower energy connection might get prioritized just out of necessity, not malice?
Usually not malice, no. Usually just structural efficiency that leads to that overall conclusion. It's rarely personal. It's usually structural pressures shifting the pillars.
Okay. Proximity, timing, energy, the PTE framework.
And that's why flexibility is key. Adult friendships have to be flexible enough to handle shifts in proximity and timing. And they need to be forgiving enough to understand temporary dips in someone's energy or bandwidth.
If you demand perfect alignment on all three, all the time.
It's just not sustainable. Life's too dynamic for that.
Okay, so accepting that PTE framework is the first step, understanding the structure. Now, how do we apply it? This is where the let them theory comes in, right?
Exactly. This is the practical application phase.
Yeah.
Let them is primarily about acceptance. But the source material warns applying it can actually be, well, painful initially,
Painful. Why?
because it often forces you to confront the reality of the relationship's foundation. Specifically, who is putting in the effort?
Ah, you mean like you stop being the initiator?
Precisely. You apply let them by, say, pausing your outreach. You stop always being the one to make the calls, send the texts, suggest the plans, and you wait and see.
And the painful part is when?
When no call comes back, or suddenly no one is reaching out, you realize, maybe uncomfortably, that you are the primary engine keeping that specific connection alive.
Ouch. Yeah, that's a tough pill to swallow. But hang on, isn't there a danger here? If you just let them drift away, aren't you just accepting low effort across the board? Where's the line between being flexible and just letting people walk all over you or take you for granted?
That's a really important question, a crucial distinction. The let them framework isn't advocating for accepting disrespect or exploitation. That's not it at all.
Okay.
It's advocating for assuming good intent first. Before you conclude someone is intentionally neglecting you or doesn't care, you need to analyze the facts of their life through the PTE lens. What are the structural pressures they might be under?
Look at their proximity, timing, and energy situation.
Exactly. More often than not, the facts reveal that distance is a function of overwhelming life circumstances, a shift in timing, or a drain on energy, not a reflection of their affection for you.
Okay, so what are some of those overwhelming circumstances we should look for?
The sources mention things like those demanding heavy issues. Think about it. Caring for an aging parent who needs round-the-clock support,
Yeah, that consumes everything.
or navigating a child's serious illness or struggles, dealing with crippling burnout from work, or maybe they're trapped in a really unhealthy relationship, romantic or otherwise, that's sucking all their emotional energy.
Right. In those kinds of high-stakes crises, survival mode kicks in.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Every single ounce of their energy, their bandwidth, is channeled into just managing the crisis, getting through the day. Their absence, their silence towards you has literally nothing to do with you or how they feel about you.
In fact, pushing them to hang out when they're in that state would probably be counterproductive.
Totally. In those cases, let them means letting them focus entirely on the crisis without adding the pressure of social obligation. Your quiet, low-pressure support, maybe an occasional thinking of you text with zero expectation of response, might actually be a lifeline they appreciate but simply cannot reciprocate right now.
Okay. That reframes let them significantly. It's about compassionate understanding of their constraints.
Precisely. Which leads us to this really crucial rule within the theory, the let them not text back rule.
Ooh, okay. This feels radical in our always-on instant reply culture.
It kind of is. The theory's explicit. Friendships are not tit for tat. You cannot keep score.
So if I text a friend just to check in or share something funny,
Do it because you genuinely want to share or connect. Do it from a place of generosity without expecting an immediate or maybe any reply.
and if they don't text back quickly or even at all,
That silence is not a measure of how much they value your friendship. Assume 99% of the time, according to the source, that it's an indication of how utterly overwhelmed their timing or energy pillars are at that moment.
we have to fight that urge to think, wow, they couldn't even take 10 seconds to reply. I guess I don't matter.
Reject that thinking. It's almost always about their capacity, not your value.
The narrator actually gives a really good example of this from her own life, looking at it from the perspective of the person who became distant.
Oh, yeah. What happened?
She talked about moving away from the Boston area after living there for 26 years. A huge move. They relocated to this small, rural town where they knew absolutely no one.
Wow. Big life change. Major proximity shift.
Huge. And on top of that, it coincided with her company going through hypergrowth. So massive professional demands, tons of pressure.
Okay, so energy drain from work.
Right. And at the same time, they were trying to prioritize integrating their family into this completely new community, building connections from scratch.
So timing-wise, her focus was entirely on the new environment and the demanding job.
Exactly. Her proximity, timing, and energy were all structurally redirected away from her old life for about 4 years, she said.
4 years is a long time in a friendship drift.
It is. And she fully acknowledges, from the perspective of her old Boston friends, it must have looked like she just vanished. Like she ghosted them or was being a bad friend.
Mm-hmm. Easy to see that they might feel that way.
But she stresses, it's not that I don't care. It was just that the structure of her life, the PTE factors made maintaining those high-input, long-distance friendships functionally impossible during that intense chapter.
That's such a powerful illustration of the principle.
Yeah. And it highlights the core lesson of distance, viewed through the let them lens. When somebody loses touch, it doesn't necessarily mean you've lost a friend.
Right. The connection might still be there, dormant.
Exactly. The advice is to let them be distant, without slapping on labels like bad friend or assuming betrayal. That judgment is what preemptively blows up perfectly amazing relationships.
Because you didn't have the flexibility or the framework to understand their current structural reality.
So by accepting the distance likely has nothing to do with you, personally.
You keep the emotional door open. You allow the relationship to just rest, to lie dormant without resentment building up until maybe their timing and energy shift back into alignment with yours someday.
Okay, so let them is about acceptance, understanding structural constraints, assuming good intent, not keeping score. It's a foundation of non-judgment.
Exactly. And that foundation is essential because it allows us to pivot to the really optimistic, empowering side of this coin.
Which is,
The idea that the connection never actually breaks, not the fundamental bond anyway. It's only proximity and timing, the logistical factors, that make you lose touch.
I like that distinction. Losing touch isn't losing the friend.
Right. And this leads directly to the proactive part of the theory. Let me.
Okay, so if let them is acceptance, let me is action.
It's action. It's agency. The source material talks about that incredible joy, one of the greatest surprises in the world, when you get that unexpected text or call from someone years later.
Oh yeah, that's the best feeling.
Isn't it? And because the underlying bond wasn't actually damaged by the distance, it was just shelved due to those external pressures, the possibility of falling right back into a deep and loving connection almost instantly is very real.
Like no time has passed.
Exactly. And the narrator herself is apparently experiencing this pivot now. She's coming out of those intense 4 years of company growth and settling into the new town.
Right, she mentioned that.
They're settled in the new house, the kids are grown empty nesters, so her structural life priorities, they've shifted dramatically.
Her timing pillar has changed.
Completely. And she says now, reprioritizing friendships is at the top of the list. Her bandwidth has opened up.
That's a perfect real-life example of the timing pillar swinging back into alignment, creating the space for the let me phase.
Precisely. So if let them is about that non-judgmental flexibility, what does let me actually mean in practice?
Good question. How do you define let me?
It's the proactive assertion of your own agency in relationships.
Yeah.
It's the reminder to yourself to stop just sitting around expecting invitations.
Or waiting for someone else to apologize for the distance or make the first move.
Exactly. You shift from passive waiting, maybe stewing in resentment, to active, intentional participation in your social life.
Okay, so what kind of actions does let me motivate?
Specifically, it motivates action designed to bridge the gap, often by minimizing the energy cost for both people, especially when reconnecting after a long time.
Tactically reaching out.
Yeah, it means taking the lead. Let me be the one to reach out to those old friends you haven't spoken to in ages. But maybe do it strategically.
Like instead of proposing a huge time-consuming dinner right away.
Right. The let me approach might be, let me initiate just a quick 15-minute virtual coffee catch-up. Lower stakes, easier to schedule.
Or let me send a thinking of your email or text, just to keep the connection warm without demanding an immediate lengthy response.
Exactly. The goal initially might just be structural maintenance, reopening the channel gently, not trying to extract deep emotional connection immediately.
That makes sense. Less pressure on both sides.
hmm And this proactive let me isn't just for reviving old friendships. The narrator had to apply it rigorously to make new connections from scratch after moving at age 54.
Right, building a whole new social circle.
Yeah, that meant let me put myself out there. Let me join that local book club or volunteer group. Let me accept invitations even if I feel awkward. Let me be the one to suggest grabbing coffee with that interesting person I met. It's about creating local proximity and positive energy intentionally.
Wow. So the theory isn't just about managing loss, it's actively about building and creating connection, too.
Absolutely. And there's this really exciting, optimistic realization that comes with it. This framework gives you a toolkit for finding your people, regardless of your age or current circumstances.
Even if you feel like you're starting from zero.
Even then, let me encourage you to embrace the possibility that, as the source puts it, you haven't even met some of your favorite people yet.
I love that idea. That the best connections might still be ahead.
It's incredibly hopeful, right?
Yeah.
So that initiative, that's the piece you control. Let the Gym gives you the compassion and flexibility to navigate the structural barriers life throws up. Let the Gym gives you the motivation and the agency to actively build and rebuild proximity, adapt to new timing, and ensure your own energy is a positive, welcoming force.
It totally reframes how you see a changing social landscape. You're not just a passive victim of exclusion or drift.
No, you're an active architect of connection. You have tools, you have agency.
Okay, great. So let's try and wrap up the key takeaways from this deep dive on adult friendships.
Sounds good.
It seems the fundamental challenge is navigating the structure, balancing those three pillars: proximity, timing, and energy.
PTE, the structural realities.
And the solution proposed is this kind of dual action. First, the acceptance piece, let them.
Right, let them be distant, let them be different, let them be dealing with their stuff, all without judgment. Understand their structural constraints.
Yeah. And second, the initiative piece.
Let me take responsibility for reaching out. Let me manage my own energy positively. Let me be flexible and proactive in building and maintaining connections.
It feels like this framework really provides a vital toolkit, doesn't it, for managing that inevitable ebb and flow of adult social life.
It does. And crucially, it helps you do it without defaulting to those toxic emotional spirals. The blame, the insecurity, the bitterness that we saw in that initial anecdote.
You swap those impossible expectations, friends, forever.
Uh,
Always easy for a more realistic, sustainable flexibility.
And by understanding that distance is often just a logistical reality, a structural issue,
Yeah.
you take the personal sting out of it.
Mhm.
You can finally internalize that the bond itself probably isn't broken. It's just resting, waiting for the structural conditions, the PTE pillars, to potentially realign and allow for reconnection.
Which brings us perfectly to our final provocative thought for you, the listener, to maybe mull over. If this source material is onto something, if that core connection between friends doesn't truly break, if it's really only proximity and timing that make you lose touch, then what's one friendship in your life that you've maybe avoided reaching out to?
One where you assumed the break was permanent, that maybe you did something wrong or they decided they were done.
Exactly. When maybe, just maybe, all it would take is a single low-stakes let me text or email to potentially fall right back in it almost instantly.
It's worth considering. Maybe take that first step today. Let me be the initiator and see if you can bring a valued friendship